I just took a bull. This bull has been sounding gnarly, nasty. On my right, there's two bulls fighting. I can see them going, their bodies moving back and forth between the trees. And then all of a sudden I hear this. There's another bull right there. Walking through those aspens.
I shot him. Did you hear that?
No. We both just shot the same bull.
I shot him first.
He shot him first. Oh my gosh. What a heck of a pursuit, dude. All freaking day.
When your buddy calls you, says you got a buck down. And what does he got? A buck down.
Look what I found.
What a sweet coon, man. Opening day, heck yeah. Way to go, Steve.
Arizona Archery Club is a premier partner with Bowhunting AZ. When it comes to attention to detail and a fiery passion, Arizona Archery Club brings it all to the table. With all the latest bows and archery equipment, you can demo every single model in person free of charge in their multiple demo rooms. Walk through the process with an experienced bow tech and see which bow is right for you without the sales pressure. Their indoor archery range offers air-conditioned lanes where you can shoot out to 40 yards. Take this awesome opportunity to hone in your accuracy and technique. When you visit, be sure to mention that you're a listener to the Bowhunting AZ podcast. Let's all support local. Conquering your own dark mountain is no easy task. The backcountry requires grit and determination. Having quality supplements like Dark Mountain's Kodiak pre-workout, whey proteins, and nourishing recovery are all an essential part of your success in the journey to harvest from the land. Dark Mountain is a 2% for conservation company because they know that with a collective effort, we can cherish these resources for a long time to come. Use promo code BowhuntingAZ20 for 20% off your order at darkmountain.com. Remember, luck favors hard work. National Automotive Repair is a locally owned and operated auto repair shop in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona. Jake McLaughlin and his team operate their business with a foundation of honesty, quality, and integrity. From routine oil changes to larger mechanical repairs, National Automotive can solve your issues and have you back in operation. The shop is located right off of I-17 and Thunderbird off Sweetwater Avenue, or call Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5:30 at 602-978-3278. Big Iron & Co. is Arizona's premier pressure washing company. Whether it is concrete and driveway oil spot cleaning, soft cleaning of stucco siding, or cleaning solar panels, Big Iron & Co. offers premium services at the most affordable price guaranteed. Big Iron serves the entire state of Arizona. From the valley to the pines in the north, we've got you covered. Big Iron & Co. was born out of the need for traditional American and family values to become part of business once again. We take pride in our families, we take pride in our homes, and we take pride in our neighbors and community. All Bowhunting AZ podcast listeners will receive 20% off every Big Iron & Co. service. On top of that, any Bowhunting AZ listener who schedules their appointment by August 1st will receive an additional 50% off an exterior window cleaning treatment. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Big Iron AZ. Give them a call or text at 480-630-1226 or visit them online at bigironco.com to schedule and experience the best in the desert. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bowhunting AZ podcast. It's August. It's not July anymore. It's August now. August here in Arizona. And of course, next month we've got September, and September brings bugling bulls into our future. So elk is about to start here in Arizona. I know the archery club said that everyone's kind of making a mad dash for getting their bows ready and stuff. So this is perfect timing. Today's episode is going to be called Unleashing the Call of the Wild, conversation with Marc Carlton from Native by Carlton. That name probably sounds familiar to a lot of you guys, as Wayne Carlton is a pretty big icon in the elk calling industry. And Marc is his son and is leading the way for new product, for continuing tradition and everything. So I'm really excited to have Marc here on the podcast. I'm very grateful for your time today. I know you're a family guy as well. You said you were just doing jujitsu with your son. And so
daughter.
Huh? Oh, daughter. I apologize.
Yeah, and, makes it even better.
Yeah, it does. That's awesome. I need to get mine into that too, because I've got three girls. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so you're kind of head storming the way of everything now, kind of steering the ship per se of the company. You live out in Colorado, and I just kind of wanted to set the stage for kind of what year did the company start and just the reputation of like producing top quality elk calls.
Sure. So Native technically, and it's Native by Carlton. We didn't have game calls on it. We just want to be kind of diverse with what we were. But Native by Carlton started technically in 2015. But we are, like you say, we're family-owned business. It's an offshoot from Wayne Carlton's calls that originated in 1981, 83-ish. I think that thing really caught a gear and got to be known timeline-wise for that. But we definitely are the generational piece of that puzzle, to where we started that back in the early 80s, and we've kind of gone on that ride and merged Wayne Carlton's calls with Hunter Specialties in. And we did that roughly about 2000. And then Wayne stayed on with those guys for quite a while, had some really good years, good experiences. And then as time's gone on, they've changed ownership multiple times. They've got a really good group of guys now. But throughout that process, we ended up kind of becoming independent, doing some different things. So Native by Carlton took birth about, like I said, 2015 to 2017. And we're still here kind of going along now.
That's awesome.
Really getting our feet kind of in the dirt. It took us a few years. To be honest with you, we had some catch up. I think whenever you sell a company and it goes corporate, I think things shift gigantically on the way businesses are run. So when we started Native by Carlton, we were really good at some things like the open read stuff, the acrylic cal calls, that stuff we were crazy dialed in on. And we had a bunch of new stuff we wanted to do. We wanted to embrace going into acrylics and custom and higher end stuff. The second time around, we really wanted to make better stuff, not just stuff. So we kind of really embraced the custom call shop. But as it's gone on, we're 5-6 years in. We got some new stuff, but it's taken us 5-6 years really doing things and listening to people, and that was the biggest piece right there. We just wanted to listen. We wanted to get some product out there and really listen to all the guys in the woods and get all the negative feedback that we could generate, and there was plenty. It's like anything growing and developing. But I really like where we're at this year. Like this year's been the corner with a bunch of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of even backtrack a little bit more, can you tell us the origins of it's now Native by Carlton, but like what was the origin of this whole calling thing? Like I've seen, what's that film now? I'm trying to think of what it's called.
Linguist.
The Linguists, yeah. If you guys
have... Yeah, Corey and Canada did a great job with that. That was a cool piece.
I was pumped to see your dad in there, though, man. That was cool because I was like, obviously there's multiple companies in the industry, but then they threw him in there, and I was already, a raving fan because I had met Wayne when he came out and did an elk seminar, and I think it was like 2018 or 2019. But that was cool to see because it tells kind of the origin of everything, which I'll let you go ahead and jump into.
Well, and we'll have to really back up a fair bit there because the calling industry, even the hunting industry, I kind of look at that as a whole. And you and I are truly sitting in, I think, the fifth generation of what the hunting industry is. So I think if you go all the way back to Compton being the original seat for everything, and then that branched out to a couple small archery companies, and then Pope and Young and Ishii, and then that generated the next one, which was Fred Bear and that group of guys, and then my dad fell into that fourth generation of, the Bill Jordans and the Toxie Hawses and those guys that were still very much on the front end of development and figuring out what the industry looked like. But also those guys paved a ton of road, man. And Dad was definitely the Western face for that. But we always joke about how blessed he truly was. Like that guy, man, got hit by lightning, like of luck, because of just the things that took place for him. So this goes back as far back as like the first diaphragm turkey call he ever saw was with, and I'm sure it was one of those deals like guys just get talking like, hey man, if you do this and do that, you can make this and do these sounds. And so his first diaphragm call he ever saw, and he's just a kid, was from an uncle, and he had taken a lead top to a toothpaste tube. Back in the day when toothpaste was safe, they put them in lead tubes. And they had filed out, a big horseshoe clamp, and they took it and sandwiched in a piece of condom in between that lead top and then put duct tape all the way around it. And that was the first diaphragm call he ever saw. So really, when you look at the industry, man, we've been making diaphragm mouth calls for roughly 60, 70 years.
Wow.
On doing that. So, I mean, it's been around a long time. But that was, his origins was turkey stuff. So we moved to Colorado in 75, and he had taken everything that he knew from the turkey world, because that was his wheelhouse. And he was just a southern redneck guy, uneducated, and he was a salesman at a pest control company. And they found their way to Colorado just doing guy hunting trips. Like, hey, man, good job working all year. We're going to go to Colorado. We're going to go hunting for a week. So about the third trip out, he had looked at Colorado and says, man, I'm done with Florida. I'm packing my bags and we're going. So they literally loaded up, no job, hardly no money, no house, no plan really, which was kind of the way that guy rolls. and they landed here in Montrose, Colorado. And within a few years, in all that process, he had heard a turkey do a kiki run in the woods. Back east, of course. But out here, he hears the same thing. He hears a big, high-pitched, high-shrill whistle. And, it's human nature that if you see or hear something, it automatically registers to what you know. Like, you don't place it into what you don't know. It automatically, like, you go back to repetition of things that you've heard before. So he actually had heard an elk bugle, thought it was a kiki run of a turkey in the fall, and it turned out to be an elk bugling. So that was a little nugget that stuck with him for years, and he put two and two together. He's like, man, if an elk bugle sounds like a kiki run, if I can make that mistake, maybe I can bugle on a turkey reed. So he grabbed a double reed turkey call, and he had learned to call an elk on a turkey reed. But you think about that, man. At the time, all we had was like those little corrugated copper pipes that were dual ended. All they did was whistle. That was it. There was nothing else in play at the time. So to go from that to the realisticness that a diaphragm call gave a guy, it was like catastrophic in the woods, man. It was like nuclear stuff. And locally here in town, he had gotten to know everybody, and everybody had gotten to know him. Dad was always just a really big personality and working business in town anyways. He got to know everybody. And he was always, goofing around and blowing calls and this and that. So he'd got the reputation around town of being able to do this crazy stuff and sound just like an elk. So he ends up getting drafted into a hunt that the city had paid for.
Oh, wow.
For a writer from Outdoor Life, a guy by the name of Rich LaRocco. Rich is still alive and over in Salt Lake somewhere. I still need to reach out and touch base with the guy, because I still want to hear like his story of all this. Yeah. But even Dad laughs. So Dad gets drafted into guiding, and Montrose is putting the hunt together because they are trying to promote tourism and hunting back in Colorado again. So they're trying to generate income, right? So they put this hunt together. He gets drafted, and halfway through the hunt, it was one of those, you hunt enough, man, that you get into some years and you get into some situations like they're lifetime experiences, and that stuff never happens again, breaks every rule out there. And he had one of those days with Rich LaRocco in his hip pocket. So Rich is out here to write an article like on guiding stuff in Montrose, Colorado, and he teams up with Dad in the middle of it, and all these things happen. Like elk are fighting, they're tearing down trees, 5 bullets, like shit. It never happens
Just
that way.
The fan, yeah.
So Rich sees the handwriting on the wall. He pulls Dad aside. He's like, "Hey, man, I don't know how much you like doing pest control stuff." And we had started a business doing what he knew was pest control. Okay. So when we came out here, he peddled for a couple of years and then ended up back in the pest control company and just started his own business. So Rich is, I don't know how much you like killing bugs, but you are on fire with this thing. If you don't grab a hold of this idea, man, it's on you. And so within a year, and Rich came out the next season, Rich had come back out, did an article, went went national with Outdoor Life, and you think about it, man, back in the day, like 1981, 82, 83, dude, I mean, it was like we all went over to Johnny's house because his dad had the brand new satellite dish. Everybody was still on, a big old box set with 4 channels, and that's all there was. The only media we had, like, there was no hunting shows. We were still watching Fred Bear on PBS shoot polar bears, on a Sunday special. So it was right when all that stuff's, starting to change and mature and go into different directions.
Right.
So there's only a handful of magazines. So at the time, man, it was just like lightning in a bottle for him. That hit, and it just took off for him. And within 3-4 years, Wayne Carlton's Calls was up and running, and it was off to the races. And he sold the company. He sold the pest control company, I think, in '85.
Okay. So he went from killing bugs to killing bulls.
Yep. Yep. And it just became a household name because as soon as that hit, that storyline and just the Western Adventure, the destination hunting for guys, that was just such a dynamic, pivotal period in the industry in general that it just exploded him. And he just grabbed it, never said no to any opportunity, man, and just put his feet down and went for it. And within years, now we're doing the first VHS tapes and we're doing hunting videos, and it just started snowballing.
Yeah.
So it was a cool story for him.
It kind of seems like how it goes in the hunting industry, right? Like once
is.
that ball gets rolling of whatever your endeavor is in this industry, like it just starts going and going and going. And pretty soon you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, and it is, man. But I think the key thing for him was always, it was a right personality, right person, right place, right time. But at the same time, he just always said yes. He never turned down an opportunity. And even though, I can remember his first seminar he did, we were really tied into the Turkey Federation. And those guys really came in to be mentors and friends for him over the years. And I remember, I can barely remember this. I can remember doing his first seminar at the Elks Club here in Montrose, and he was petrified, to public speak and get up there on stage. And I remember Rob kept coming off the top and like, hey, Wayne, man, don't sweat this. You know more about calling elk than anybody else in this room. Don't back out. And he took that and just went with it for his whole career.
That's awesome. Yeah, he did such a good job. Boy, I can pull it up here real quick, but his seminar is actually one of my episodes. Let's see here.
Dude, if you've got a good copy of his seminar, like a video copy.
I think I have a video copy. I know I for sure have the audio. I can't remember if I videoed it or not, but if
you would be the only guy that has a video copy, and I have.
Oh, really?
I can't believe over all the years we never sat down, and I'm sure somebody's got it somewhere.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean, I would love to just have a video because he was
absolutely. I'll dig into my.
He was brilliant at public speaking.
Oh, he did such a good job. That's why it was shocking to hear you say that he was petrified because, man, he just killed it. It was, you could see not the salesman per se, but just like the ability to connect with people was there for sure. Yeah. But it's episode 11 on the podcast. So if you guys go on Spotify or iTunes, you can listen to it. It's Wayne Carlton. Let's talk a little bit now. So you've kind of set the foundation of the company, where it started, how the elk breed came about. Let's fast forward a little bit now to you. So you're kind of in the transition of taking things over. Dad's got his own health issues and kind of stuff that he's dealing with. You guys just did a turkey hunt, which was pretty cool. Yeah. And now you're kind of at the helm of things. You're taking over and you're driving the ship now. Where do you how has the company evolved and positioning yourself as like a leader in producing the best elk calls now? For instance, so we'll dive more in depth about this, but like you've just dropped the new V3 frame. Kind of speak on that a little bit and what that's like.
So the when we really did Native, it was there was a separation after we sold the Hunter Specialties where Dad was cut loose for a while. So we really kind of did Native as a good place for him to hang his hat and still be in the industry and do what he was good at for a long time. It's matured now to where it's turned into a business. Now we got to do something with it. But growing up being a manufacturer, man, I'm pretty OCD and I kind of nerd out on stuff at a high level. And the calls has always been a big piece of that for me for whatever reason. But we're always innovating. We're always designing. I don't know if we've matured so much. Like, we were talking before we pushed record, the industry has really matured. Like we've gone through innovation, we've gone through the patent years. Like there's not many patents in the industry anymore. I think that era is kind of over. So now we're getting to a point of what makes cults better, and I think a lot of that is being innovative, but also fit and finish, and really building everything the best that we can. There's always a thing in the industry that kind of drives me nuts, and it's just me personally. You know, I kind of get the theory, but the theory is like the middle 80 guys that buy stuff. It's just make the products good enough, and I was never wired that way. I was always wired to let's do stuff that makes no sense. Let's build it as good as we possibly can. And I mean, we go as far as to build a $500 elk call with a silver band and an ivory tooth in it.
Yep.
That makes no sense from a business standpoint. I just do it because I think it's cool.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I do it, man. It's just that feeds my creative juices, and I think it's neat. So we do a lot of that stuff, but we really are built on trying to build stuff as good as we can. That's kind of been the motto, man. I never want to hear it's good enough. I want to make sure we drive that thing as far as we can.
Yep. What challenges have you kind of faced along the way? I mean, how many attempts of reeds have you thrown out in the trash can, or like what other speed bumps are there just in running a business like this?
So a couple things. We've fallen from grace whenever over the years after selling, going corporate, you lose some innovation and you lose some drive, you lose some money. There's so many fingers in the pie that it's really hard to be innovative. So I feel like we've been catching up for the last 7 years. We had some stuff that we came out with. Some of it was new. Some of it was, really good ideas. We knew we could do the open reed stuff, the acrylics, the burl woods. I knew I could knock that out of the park. Where we had to catch up on was some of the diaphragm design. The newer tape that we're doing, and I think that was next level. And I still think we're ahead of the curve on that one. I still think we're 5 years too early. But, it's still innovative and it's new, it's durable, it lasts longer than a bunch of other options out there. But like the frame we did, the Rip It frame was good, but we still had, some negative pushback on fit or, durability. We had some things that we had to adjust there. So when we did the V3, we had 7 years of all feedback to really go off of, and so when we did that product, we did that design, we try to answer, all the questions coming at us and the requests. So we made one frame that ran really, really well, and we did it in a small, we did it in a medium, and we did it in a large, because I think the first question that comes up as an elk caller and what makes you successful is finding what fits. I think that's the number one thing out of the box. And then I think after that, now we've opened it up to where we have options of tape, we have options of size. We've kept the latex super simple. Manufacturing wise, I think a bunch of us get caught up, and we did too. You get caught up in trying to feed the box store guys. Every year they want something new. So after a while, man, like you built your best stuff and now they want something new for that year. So you end up trying to come up with stuff. And it's hard, especially when you put your best foot forward out of the gate, it's hard to match that as you go. So then you get a company, and we've been part of it. It's hard to come up with something new that's still as effective as what you just did.
Yeah.
So with what we've done with Native, we do a lot more online direct than what we used to. We still do service the mom and pops and some of the box stores, but we've kept it simple. So we did the 3 frames in the 3 best latexes, and then we offered 2 different tape options that guys could call and order however they wanted to do it. So it was really diverse in thought as far as making sure we could fit what everybody wanted.
Yeah, good.
And then the other thing too, design wise, man, elk calls have changed a bunch since back in the day when we were building elk calls on a turkey platform. That started everything. But man, the technology has really come a long ways. And now I think tubes make a big difference. Mouthpieces fit, back pressure in the tube. Like these are all big pieces of the conversation, to where guys not only need to find a reed that fits, but now they need to find a grunt tube that fits them and performs well with that reed. So if it's a really big, if you're a big Al Morris, man, and you're sitting, Big Al, he's a big dude, man. He needs as much of a tube as he can get. He wants a huge mouthpiece. He wants that guy put some volume out. Versus me, man, I'm 5'7", 155 pounds. I'm going to run something different. But the fit on the mouthpieces and the way the tubes operate make a difference. So guys really, I think, miss that boat, and they need to be more aware of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what's crazy, man, is there's so many different, I mean, it's like a bow, right? There's so many different uniquenesses out there per hunter and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch of different mouse sizes and everything, but we'll dive into it more, of course. I keep teasing it, but these V3s, man, I'm pumped with the way those
Dude,
fit.
they have been a blast for me to run. I've been calling. I'm 47. I started running a diaphragm when I was 8 years old. I was in my first calling contest in the local county fair when I was 8. So I've been running one a little while. This is the best I've ever called, and it's all been the last 3 years and getting dialed in on those new frames. That V3, man, I can run the bejesus out of that thing. It runs nonstop.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. Kind of transitioning into your personal hunting experiences. Tell us a little bit about some of your elk hunting adventures in the field. Maybe how old were you when you got your first harvest or something like that?
Sure. I mean, that's a lengthy one. So it's interesting growing up in the industry. One thing growing up in the industry, you've grown up in the industry, so you don't always put your best foot forward when you're 17 on some things, so you're there a long time. So you got to kind of weather that storm a little bit too. But then you also get sucked into, I really took for granted from day one when we started the business when I was a kid, the people that I was exposed to. Because I just wasn't exposed to guys on the street learning elk hunt. I was exposed to guys that were phenomenal whitetail guys. They were phenomenal. These were the best guys. And I just kind of by osmosis, you just start gathering this stuff up. And then by the time you hit 18, 19, and you're starting to get out on your own, and now you're going and guiding for other outfits and doing other things and spreading your wings a little bit, you start realizing what you had acquired throughout your life. And I ended up becoming more of a guide than anything, for sure. Like Dad got so busy with what he was doing, man, especially as I came up through high school, he got drafted into, man, being Wayne Carlton, like being on top of the mountain as far as being that guy in that time and place and in his time window. So he was gone like 250 days a year. So a lot of the hunting stuff I ended up doing by myself. So we did have a father-son trip like when I was 14, and we came out, we went hunting in Silverton, Colorado, and I called in my first elk there by myself. Dad was sick. He had giardia. He was fighting off and on, and we got up the mountain, and he was tanked. So and the elk are bugling. He's like, man, just go. You're on your own. And so sure enough, I get over there, and I call a bull into 15 yards and can't get a shot. But even as a kid at 14, man, such a to go over, do that, call that, and be so close and be immersed with what is the main reason we all go call elk and we all hunt them is that exposure and have that elk bugling in your face and all those things, man. They just sinks in and sears into your flesh, man. It immediately becomes part of your identity.
Right.
So it was a few years later. Actually, I didn't kill my first bull till I was about 17. By the time you get up doing high school football and everything else, and I did that with Dad, with the camera guy. Still Silverton at the time. Silverton used to be a really good area to just go hunt, run and gun at.
Okay. And
then after that, man, I really got dumped into guiding because we always had buyers from Cabela's or Bass Pro, or we were, by then we got tied into the Elk Foundation TV show. So I ended up, I really look back at my career, and I was either a guide or a cameraman, almost 24/7. So I'd get a couple days to hunt here and there. So a lot of my career ended up just being a professional guide. I was the last 10 years in, like being at the firehouse. So I don't think we covered that earlier. So my full-time day job is fire department. So I've been at Montrose Fire for about 11 years. That has also drafted me into taking a lot of buddies elk hunting. So we put a lot of guys first-time elk on the ground, and that's been great. I've really enjoyed doing that. And even hunting-wise, man, I've hunted enough now and seen enough. I'm almost to the point, almost, not quite. I got a good elk tag this year, and I'm slinging arrows. But I'm almost to a point that I could almost just take pictures and write articles and do those things. I did a hunt with John Gunderson over at King's Camo. He's one of their sales guys and long-term family friend. And dude, I ended up writing an article for Western Hunter, and it was an epic hunt. The photography was phenomenal. The lighting was like it couldn't have turned out better, and that was as rewarding as anything, probably even more so. So it's been a part of a lot of hunts, man. Chasing Dad around, running the camera for him, watching him call in gators. Just all the shenanigans over the years. It's pretty much endless. I'm not even sure where to go with that question.
Sure.
To be honest with you, but I had a really good elk tag last year. Learned a bunch. Was completely on my own for the first time in a long time. Didn't have anybody, and I usually like September 16th hit. And I had vacation time. I told the wife I'm gone. She goes, "When you coming home?" I don't really know. And I got into just some insane stuff by myself last year. Had some great world-class encounters. Was in on a 380. I had elk chaos come in. I had 3 herds just converge together. One of those rare moments, like we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
And had multiple 360s in front of me. And, just a lifetime experience on that hunt. I ended up closing out the season with a decent bull on like third to last day. Missed a 360 out of that first herd that I got into. I had about a week over there. So made some mistakes, learned some stuff. I learned something too, man. When you guide and you run the camera a bunch, because we were talking earlier, you do a fair bit of it. You lose that killing edge.
Yeah.
Like you get out of the habit of shooting and putting a pin on hair and getting things done. Like you lose a little bit of an edge, and I definitely noticed that last year. I remember my dad making statements similar to this. And sure enough, man, I got into it last year. It's like, oof, I hadn't put anything on the ground in a while, man. And it shows.
Yeah.
Especially after I dropped a shot on the 360, So it's that kind of drives it home. But still had an awesome year last year. And what I liked most about it was how much went out the window of what I thought I knew. Even though I consider myself pretty elite at what I do as far as calling, I got into that group that I ended up missing on, and I can tell you right now, I put a calc on my mouth. I put my grunt tube on my pack. I knocked an arrow, and I was in. Because calling was there was so much going on. Calling was a moot point, man. It was that my tactics completely changed. My one thing I'm best at, that's my biggest asset, I had to take and go, woo, and just toss it.
Yeah.
So, and then I had the other mistake I made last year was out of the group that I killed on, I had 4 bulls bugling. And so I ended up shooting a decent little bull. He's really nice on one side, and then he's retarded on the other. But I get that done. I get him cut up. I'm packing him out. I'm halfway down to the trailhead. And in the middle of all this bugling had taken place, I heard a couple, like 2.
Yep.
Like in the middle, like I could barely hear it. And it was just like this. And that was it, man. To the point I kind of went over my head. And on my way out, I get back to the trailhead, and I'm just tortured myself. And we got a bunch of down timber. We still have a ton of beetle kill in Colorado. So I ended up having to invert this rack to go over all these logs. And when you're 5'7", man, it doesn't take much to have to walk over all the damn logs. So I get back down to the trail. I'm beat to a frazzle. I look over to my left, and my whole hunt for that tag, because it was a good tag, was 300 or better, and then some. And I'm packing out, and that little low, subtle bugle that I missed that went right over my head was about a 350 that was sitting in the trail when I came out for he was at 15 yards for about 2 minutes. I could have killed him with a rock. So it was one of those deals, like I said, I was rusty last year, had some things, just audibly miss some stuff, and, just give it time, listen more, slow down, the same stuff. I'm just amazed at how long a guy does stuff, and it's just, it is never ending screwing up and learning.
Yeah. Kind of dive into that right there, like never ending with learning, because how does your connection between like the passion for the outdoors and elk hunting, how much of that do you see transfer when you get back home and you start tinkering with stuff again? Like, are you just like reinvigorated after each one? Is there some sort of correlation there between those two?
Yeah, I think so. Dude, to be honest with you, do you know why we do this? You know why you do it and I do it and every bow maker? It's because we get to keep our heads into hunting 365 days a year.
Yep.
Like there's no break for us. Like we're just tinkering. It keeps us enthused and like going out and practicing your bow and trying to make sure you're in decent shape and going out and fishing and doing all that stuff, man, plays 365 days a year. It just keeps us immersed in it. Yeah. It keeps us going. That's the only reason guys do this for a living, Yep. There's not a great money in game calls. It just keeps our head in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the fully all-in nerd aspect.
Now you just get to eat, live, and breathe it. So, 24/7
for sure. So it's, I think you're always into it, but it's Yeah, I don't think I ever have any downtime. I'm always thinking about the next season. And one of the nice things, I will say this, one of the nice things about getting older, because I gripe all the other times about how fast time gets moving as our kids get older and we get to moving.
Mm-hmm.
But the nice piece of that puzzle is, dude, I just got off the mountain and we're fixing to go back in 30 days.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the only blessing about getting older and stuff speeding up. The hunt season just get closer together.
Yep, absolutely. Well, cool, man. I'm going to put a bow on this first part of the podcast. So this is going to be a 2-part series. So thank you for listening for this week, guys. Marc, thanks for joining me on this first part. Next week, we'll jump into part 2. We're going to kind of cover a little bit about the innovation and the new product release. We'll touch more in depth on the V3. And then we'll kind of touch a little bit as well in segment 4 about the future of just elk calling, future of where you see things going and what you're looking forward to, and how we can implement the V3 a little bit more in our hunting adventures. So appreciate you joining me, man, and we'll see you in part 2. Thank you so much for listening to the Bowhunting AZ podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and smash those 5 stars on iTunes or Spotify and leave a little review at the bottom. It'll really help us out. For our short films, go subscribe over on YouTube. Just search Bowhunting AZ. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Bowhunting AZ. Good luck to everyone this season. Thank you again for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.